So we're here at the 2015 Roger Williams camp with Coach Herzog. His son wrestles for Roger Williams right now. And Coach, why don't you tell us a little bit about, how you got into wrestling and what it's been like coaching?
It's been a great experience for me. Obviously, it's kind of been a lifelong thing for me and my family history. My brothers all wrestled. My nephews all wrestled for me. Obviously, it was kind of natural that my son kind of fit into that picture. So, been involved with it probably over the last 40 years of wrestling. I know I'm not old, right? It's kind of unique. I coached for 25 years, and I've been fortunate enough to be involved with the Roger Williams Hawks here and come up here and enjoy watching my son wrestle in college now.
That's great. So what have been some of the highlights over those 25 years of coaching?
Obviously there's so many, and I've been fortunate. I know we had talked about it before, but I was fortunate enough to have a lot of success. But a lot of that was due to the athletes that were kind of given to me a little bit through our high school, and great connection with that. Surround myself with good people, and that was always it. I wanted a lot of positive energy in our room. A lot more comes from that than the negative energy. So you surround yourself with great staff, great people, and a lot of positive things come out of it. So we've been fortunate. We've had a lot of success over the years at Northern Lehigh High School and District 11 in Pennsylvania. And we've won district titles, state titles, and the whole bit there. So it's a lot of fun, and the connections I've met with people and the networking of wrestlers throughout the country is just fabulous.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so much fun to come up here and give back.
Yes, absolutely. And it's kind of neat. I come up here to Rhode Island, and I'm bumping into old friends from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and it's neat how their lives have just evolved. Like me, from a coaching aspect, I watched them as kids compete on the mat. And now here they are as adults and being very productive citizens of our society and giving back into the wrestling community.
So what have been kind of some of the things you've learned over the course of your coaching career? You were telling me a little bit about, the way you were learning how do you kind of add to a wrestler's style as opposed to trying to make him fit your mold. Kind of talk about that.
I think early on in my career, it's a lot about the wins and losses, and every coach comes in, you want to win when you win. And I was fortunate with that, and we had a lot of success with that. But I think later on, in the latter half of it, it was more about adapting to styles of kids and understanding them and relating more to them and the people and communication skills. And that was a neat aspect because I think in the beginning I wanted every kid to fit my model, what I perceived in my mind as should be the model wrestler. And I learned very quickly through experiences that not all kids, you're going to have those round pegs that you're trying to shove in a square hole, and it's just not going to work. So I've had some unique kids teach me a lot of lessons like that, and I think that helped me evolve as a coach. I mean, I've had kids who had very different backgrounds. Like I know I was relating earlier about a kid by the name of Dwayne Lucian, who was just very funky, and his style was different from what I was coaching and teaching at the time. And he kind of talked me into, so to speak, letting him evolve with that at wrestling. I'm glad I kind of embraced that. So I was constantly learning as a coach. And he went on from being an average wrestler in my style, in my era, to letting him kind of loosen up with the reins a little bit, becoming a district champion, a regional champion, and a state medalist. And a great kid, got a full ride. He got a scholarship to go on to Bloomsburg University on that. So it was a neat thing. I learned a lot about that, and that's one of the things that I always took from that and told the kids then year in and year out. I said, guys, hey, the moment I come in here and tell you I know everything as a coach, that's the day we're going to start to lose, because this sport involves so much, and I was constantly like, feed me as well. I wanted to learn as much as I could about the sport.
That's huge. And so what were some of the things you did to learn? You talked about going to some coaching clinics, and what were some of the things you did to kind of keep evolving as the sport changed?
Absolutely. Coaching clinics, constantly talking, picking the brain of other coaches. There was a few coaches in the Lehigh Valley that I very much looked up to, and I kind of felt like I was kind of gelling into all of them. I mean, we just kind of beg, borrow, and steal ideas from everybody. And that's the neat thing about the wrestling community. You can constantly go up to your best competition afterwards and go, hey, guys, what do you think? And they're showing you things and learning. And, again, it's some of the neat things. I've watched some of the top-notch coaches in our area go to coaches' clinics, give a great session, a technique session, and just like, wow, it's like this guy's on top of his game. And then 5 minutes later, I can see him with a notebook. He's sitting there, like for example, Steve Powell from Easton High School. I can see him open up a notebook and sit down, and he's learning from a newer coach. Maybe a guy was only in the business for about 5 years, and there's Steve taking notes on him and learning and asking questions. And that was neat. That was unique to me. And I learned a lot from that.
That's amazing. And of course, that's something that can be applied off the mat as well.
Absolutely.
Tell me.
I can remember an instance where, I always talked about kids, how they need to prepare to succeed, and how preparation is your key to success. And I was always preaching to kids about being punctual, and so if you're on time, you're late kind of deal. If I always show up early. And that preparation was key to us, and I can remember back in 2005, we were preparing to wrestle Reynolds High School, and they were the #1 team in the state. This was in the state final. They had beaten us earlier in the year. They were ranked in the top 10 in the nation that year. They were a phenomenal team, well-coached team, well-structured team. So we went in there, we actually beat them. We beat them in the state final, so we're state champions. I can remember we're celebrating, and I had a few people from the press come up to me from the western part of the state, and they were like interviewing me and shoving microphones in my face, and they were like, "Hey, coach," they were interviewing me, and they were like, "Oh my God, you must have been so surprised and so shocked about winning this. This is huge. You've got to be just surprised." And I remember looking at them and said, "Well, why would I be surprised?" And they were like, "Come on," almost like I was being cocky. Maybe in a sense I was, but my point was, why would I be surprised when we prepared to succeed? So isn't that what you're supposed to do? So
Absolutely.
if it does come to you, why are you ever surprised when all that preparation built into you being successful? So I wasn't trying to be cocky. I was just trying to make a point to them that no, we expected to win. I didn't bring the guys in before the match and say, "Hey guys, let's go out there and lose." We prepared to succeed.
Tell me a little bit about how do you feel like, the lessons you learned as a coach and as you were competing, how have you applied those to your life outside the mat? And, what have been some of the ways you can take what you do as a wrestling coach that makes you successful and use that to, help with a family or life beyond that or your career?
Wrestling absolutely translates into your lifestyle, because let's face it, life is never perfect. And I always tell wrestlers that if you're looking for the perfect day in a wrestling room, well, it never exists. Something always hurts. Your ankle, you got a boo-boo here, you got a bruise there, and that's kind of life. You evolve with that. So your true character, and I'm a big believer in that. True character always shows when you're faced with adversity, and isn't life always about adversity? So it's easy, when things are going well, it's easy to go, "Hey, things are good, things are good." But when you're faced with that adversity, and then you can really see the cracks in the armor, when people start to crack a little bit with that, and people start to point the finger. So is that you or not? Guys are pointing. I always used to tell kids, every time you're pointing the finger at somebody, remember you got 3 more pointing back at you. So take a little bit more accountability in that and build your character.
That's a great line. Every time you point a finger, you got 3 pointing back. Do you have any particular story that stands out of a wrestler who really kind of exemplifies that dealing with adversity or came back from an injury and did really well or anything like that?
Boy,
I know I'm putting you on the spot.
No, and I get that, and there's so many. Like I said, I've been fortunate to have great kids to coach over a 25-year span and multiple state champions. I think one of those stories was just a clinician we had here by a guy by the name of Corey Tobias, and he was a phenomenal wrestler. He never lost a dual meet ever from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. And I can remember early on in my coaching there, again, I thought this kid was going to be an invincible type of kid. We went off to the state tournament. He was a district champ, regional champ, undefeated. I didn't think anybody would touch him. And he gets upset very early in the tournament. He gets beaten. He fell behind. And he didn't know how to handle it. And quite frankly, neither did I. I kind of looked at him and went, wow. Because he's looking at me like, what do I do, coach? I'm losing this match. And I had never seen him losing a match. And I didn't really know how to respond to the situation, So I learned a lot from him at that point. I recognized that my goal as a coach was to give them the best competition. I thought, never again am I going to have a kid go to our state tournament and not have a loss on his record. So that's one of my preseason meetings. I would always tell the wrestlers, look, guys, my job as a coach is to make sure that you have at least 1 loss on your record so you understand how to face that adversity and learn how to wrestle from behind. So to deal with it, and I think that really helped out for it.
That's great. That's a really great story. And I think if more wrestlers had that perspective, guys would be more likely to go up again that weight class, get that extra dual bid, instead of so many guys want to protect their record when really you're going to be a better wrestler.
Right.
And like you were telling me earlier, you could have 6 or 7 losses in the season, but if you win states, that's that.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you had a crystal ball and you could look into it and see at the end of the season you were going to be a state champion anyway, so really does 5 losses on your record matter anyway? You're going to be a state champ.
No, absolutely. That's great. Well, thanks so much for taking the time, Coach. Anything else you want to add?
I think we're pretty good. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
All right.